Hi, I'm Amy, and this is Kara, and we're here with Warbird Radio at the EAA Museum in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We're taping a couple of our shows over the next couple of months, and we've got two great shows lined up for everybody.
Yeah, check out our first video, which is available in podcast and video form. First episode's with Chris Henry and Busse, and they are going to tell us all about the EAA when it's not Oshkosh. Welcome to Airventure Radio from Oshkosh. We're doing things a little differently this month. Normally, Amy and I are not together, and this month we actually are together.
Separate
states. Yeah, and we're gonna do. We're doing a video broadcast as well, so that'll be available on YouTube if anybody wants to check that out, and actually watch us physically talk to somebody instead of just listen. And this
could be fun.
Yeah, this is the first time we're taping, so. It's kind of an experiment to see how well this goes, and if anybody's interested. And this is actually our second show from Oshkosh because
we did one over the summer.
Yeah, we did one with the Wasp over the
Liz
summer at
Strophus.
Airventure, and with all the airplane noise going on in the background. We were in Warbird Land, so I call it Warbird Land. I don't know what it's technically called. So all the Mustangs were starting behind us. It was a nice backdrop, but very noisy. And so we're actually at the EAA Museum. We're actually at the Weeks Hangar right now, in front of the B-17. And we have Chris
Henry and Kristy Busse with us today. We're going to talk to.
Hello.
And hello, welcome. We're excited to be here. There's a lot of stuff that actually happens with the EAA throughout the year that people don't know about, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first, Kara, you've got some stuff coming up with the Restorers this month, right?
We have stuff coming up with, the Restorers is now available on DVD and Blu-ray.
The whole season.
The whole season.
Not just individuals, right?
Right. If you want, you can buy it at flightcinema.com and Amazon. It's also available. And on a upcoming episode, we're going to talk with.
We should have brought. We should have brought the videos to show everybody.
Oh, right. They're here somewhere.
We'll have to plug them in the next show.
Right. And an upcoming program, we're going to talk with Adam White, who is my husband, and I made the show. So we're going to talk to him a little bit more about the aviatrix episode where it's all featuring women, since that is the theme of our show, is women in aviation, and just aviation. But anyhow, we have that. And the big thing we have coming up is Beyond the Powder screenings with, the national tour will be starting.
Excellent.
We're heading to Frederick, Maryland in a couple weeks to show the movie. And we got one in Nashville on March 12th. And the Frederick, Maryland one is February 28th. Sorry, I'm reading. What other way you got? We get March 11th, Women in Aviation International Conference in Nashville, and then the following day, on March 12th, we have it at the Museum of the National Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, which we've shown a lot at, and is one of my favorite places to go. Definitely days worth of airplanes to look at. So that is for sure one of my favorite places. I'm very excited about it, and we have one at the Cleveland Public Library downtown in Cleveland, Ohio, on March 5th at 3:30 p.m. And I'm very excited about that one too. They wanted to have a screening with us because we did our research there for Beyond the Powder. And if you have not listened to other episodes that we've done, Beyond the Powder is my documentary about the first women's air race in 1929 and how it corresponds with the Air Race Classic. And I believe there will be Air Race Classic representation at all screenings. So
that's cool.
If you're there, then they'll be a part of the presentation.
And
cool. Adam White, who is my producer on that one, and I directed, will be with me for those screenings, and we'll do Q&A and presentation, and we'll have actual racers there to talk to, which is goes very well because we did one with the Restorers for the Doolittle Raider reunion. The second one we showed the movie. That was a lot of fun. Showed the movie, had the Minnesota Wing folks that were featured in the movie, so we had talent there, and Adam and I there.
I wouldn't call us talent.
Talent. And that was one of the best screenings that theater said they'd ever had, because it was full of people. Everybody was really engaged, and they were like, it was amazing.
It was interactive.
They could ask you guys about the technical stuff.
Right.
That Adam and I are usually like, I don't know anything about the technical restoration information.
Right.
And then they
I
could
don't know
ask
how
about
long
the
it took.
filmmaking. Yeah, so I thought that was really fun, and that worked really well. So I'm really looking forward to these Beyond the Powder screenings. And we have an upcoming book lecture, I think, here at EAA, which is kind of what started this whole thing happening.
Yeah.
With my book, My Very Dear Santa, that is about my grandparents' letters to each other during World War II. So we're going to do a talk about letter writing during World War II, which I'm very excited about.
Are you guys going to do that in the museum?
Yeah, that'll be in the museum.
That'll be
Yeah.
really cool. You
Yeah,
guys
I'm
have a
looking
great
forward to that.
museum.
It's a great
Yeah.
book too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It
Of
is.
course, I like it. I don't know. It's, like my grandfather was my best friend, which everybody hears constantly because I think about him all the time. But he's the reason I even like this stuff, which is, anyways, that's for a whole nother, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's see. Oh, and also, just a quick mention, PBS will be airing Beyond the Powder nationally, and it is, we're planning on doing a race tour with it. We're going to contact all the PBS stations for when the actual race is happening this year, which is in June. So we're going to do, I believe we will be in Missouri. There's a stop in Missouri that we're going to be at. It's KMOS PBS, and we're going to be at that race stop promoting the film. And I think we're going to be doing live coverage of the race.
Oh, that's cool.
And doing like a fundraiser for PBS station. So that'll be really fun. And then we're going to get like all the PBS stations across the race routes. And this year it's mostly college. It's all colleges. So it's going to be a lot of college teams. So
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
I'm very excited.
One of these years we're going to have to fly in the race when we get our pilot's licenses.
We'll get there.
It'll happen.
It's going to be a while. And we'll talk about more about that later too. In another episode, we're going to talk about our pilot license progress because it's slow going.
As is mine. So.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, you're learning too.
cool.
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe you can be a part of that conversation.
I was
We'll have
learning
you back
until I
on.
started doing this. So it's
yeah.
just-
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah.
you get
yeah.
busy.
You do.
get busy, and we'll talk about the challenges. I'm gonna get totally derailed.
I know.
And not talk about
we
what
have
we're
we have a
supposed to
badass of the month we got to talk about, and then we got to talk about you guys. And
I
involvement with the EAA. That we'll talk
I've
about
got a
that
lot of
next
topics
episode.
in my head. So anyhow, so that's enough of our stuff that's going on. HemlockFilms, who's one of our show sponsors, so I gotta plug all of our stuff.
Well, it's great stuff to plug. So.
Yeah, and Spotlight Business Solutions, which is Amy's company, is also our sponsor. So got to get all that stuff in there. But do you want to talk? I'll let you go.
Yeah.
I'm talking.
So this month, the last couple months, it's been really hard to pick a badass of the month because we had Diane Carlson Evans on. I don't know if you guys listened to the show. If not, you should. She's a Vietnam nurse during Vietnam War. She was 1968 to 69.
Yeah,
Isn't
and
that-
they're really, her stories are pretty amazing.
So we didn't
Yeah.
pick another badass of the month because she was it.
Yeah, I mean, like her and those ladies, they were just like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
You just listen to the show.
We may have her back on for a third because we just didn't get it all in.
Yeah,
But
she's fantastic.
this month we're going to talk about Nancy Wake, who is the socialite turned British special operations executive. I haven't personally read the book yet. It's on my list. Kara has, but apparently she was a leading figure in the French Resistance, but she had a total cavalier attitude about it. And she was like, "Yeah, I guess I could do that.
Yeah.
Sure." Do you want to tell us more since you have
Yeah.
read the book?
Oh, yeah, sure.
We're gonna post a link to it on our Facebook
Yeah.
page too, so that people can find
Right.
more information about her. But she's totally badass.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've discussed this on other shows, but like one of the reasons we do Badass of the Month is that there's so few people know about women in aviation in general that there are so many amazing women in history that are like just that have done incredible things that we want to take a moment every show to highlight them.
Yeah.
And even though if it doesn't have anything to do with the show or the rest of the topic of the show, but it's like
So French Resistance, go.
right. Tell me about the French Resistance.
I thought we were going to talk about the EAA.
Yeah. But anyhow, I read about her. I saw a bit about her go online. That's how I even knew about the book. And I was like, she sounds really cool. So I ordered the book from Amazon because I couldn't find it anywhere else. Like the library didn't even have it. And I can't remember the title of it. Of course, I haven't enough to look. I think it's called The White Mouse.
We'll post a link for it.
Yeah, I'll find it. I'll come across it as I'm flipping through my pages of notes. Anyhow, she was and I'm going to start off with this, is in her obituary, it said, the socialite who killed a Nazi with her bare hands. That kind of sums her up. Because she was very...
They really put that in her obituary?
Yeah. She killed a man with her bare hands. And when she did it, she was like, oh, it worked. Like, it was like karate chop. Because they were sneaking into, like, some building, and she was with the resistance, and she's like, oh, there's a guard here. And then she's like, oh, no, it killed him. It really works.
Oh, no, I killed him?
These are weapons?
I'd be like, oh, my God. I need to contain these.
And she just went on a spree and just.
Anyhow, I was like, and because she was a socialite. Like, she was really young, got married to an older man in France, and she was from England.
They were filthy stinking rich for back then too,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
they just.
I mean, like, her day, and this is one of my favorite things about her, is in the book it described, like, when she first got married to him, she'd be like, I'd get up about, 10 o'clock or so, and the maid would bring me my newspaper in bed, and then I'd read the newspaper, and then I'd take a bath until noon, and then I would go have some lunch, and then I would shop, and then I would, drink all night, and then repeat. That was her life.
I wonder what took her from French socialite to helping people escape from POW camps. Like, what makes a person switch, gears?
And, I think, and it's been a little while since I read the book, but one of the big things was that when World War I broke out, her husband went and fought in World War I, and she was like, I want to do something. She's like, I want to be an ambulance driver. She's like, buy me an ambulance. So her husband bought her an ambulance. And she's like, how do I drive it? So then she had to learn how to drive it. And then she helped out by driving an ambulance. And I think that really affected her, because, like, seeing, like, all these, these kids dying and, like, all the horrific things. She was like, I don't like doing this. I don't ever want to have to do this again. And when World War II broke out and the Germans occupied France, she kind of just got, she lived
sucked
there.
into it.
Like, and she ran into some English guy in the pub, and he was a prisoner of war, and for some reason they let him out during the day. And then they returned to the camp at night, which I was kind of confused by.
Like a Hogan's Heroes setup.
And maybe I read it wrong. I have no idea. And she's like, oh, it's so good to see a fellow countryman here. And he's like, and so she had him over for dinner, and, like, she just fell into becoming part of this POW escape.
It was really accidental.
Yeah, like, where she's like,
wow.
Oh, sure. Like, they're like, we really could use someone to deliver a message between these towns, and you're a French citizen. You could do it. She's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Like, not even any regard.
Wow.
I mean, at least in this, like, the guy who wrote the book about her, it doesn't sound like she just was like, very cavalier about everything. And I don't want to ruin everything in the book, but I'm just going to tell you one more thing that's my favorite. Absolutely.
Otherwise, you have to go and get the book.
I know, it's so good, and I could just sit here and, like, repeat her whole story to you. But she was the most wanted person by the Gestapo, and they didn't know who she was. And they called her the White Mouse. That's where the title of the book comes from. That was what they called her, and they couldn't. They never caught her. They did get her husband and tortured him to death because he wouldn't give her up. And his family would come see him and be like, just tell them what they want. And he's like, I have nothing to tell them. And, like, the details are pretty gross. Like, they tortured him so much that you could see his kidneys coming out of his back.
I probably would have given her up at that point. I don't know about you guys. No, I don't know. But
You're not a romantic at all.
I'm sorry. I don't know where my husband is. He's wandering around here somewhere. But no, I would totally.
Jim, you would have died. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
He would not. I would have saved him.
Bye, Felicia.
I would have kept my mouth shut.
Yeah.
I would have tried.
Okay.
Just like she doesn't believe me anymore. She's like, I'm not telling you anything.
Yeah. Anyway, and I shouldn't keep doing. We need to get moving on.
Yeah.
But,
we need to talk about our wonderful guests.
I know. Let's do that. Let's
Okay.
move on. Get the book. The book's awesome. We're gonna put a list on, and it's not. I act like I'm getting commission from this book.
I'm going to get the book now. You've convinced me.
Yeah.
It sounds great.
Yeah, I've been sharing it with all my friends, and they're like, "Yeah, that's really good." I'm like, "She's awesome!" Like, people should know about her. Like, she parachuted, like, she was a she parachuted into France from England, like, because they would be like,
crazy.
okay, and then she's, I don't, all right, anyhow, I gotta stop talking about it. I'm gonna tell you the whole story.
That can be the next episode.
The next one, and I can't find the stupid name of the book.
We'll find it and post it on the Facebook page.
I have it written here somewhere. Anyhow, let's move on. Oh, wait, maybe this is it. I think it's just called Nancy Wake, SOE's Greatest Heroine by Russell Brandon.
Cool.
That's what I have written here, so that must be it. All right, so yeah, let's move on to our guests.
Welcome.
Who have been patiently
Thanks for
waiting
joining us today.
to
Thanks
talk.
for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So, Amy, I'll let you take over for a little bit.
Okay. Great, no pressure. So, like I said, we have Kristy and Chris with us. I promise I won't get you guys mixed up.
Whatever's fine.
We've been, Kara and I and our kind of group have been friends with Chris for a very long time. We go way back. To
Yeah,
like,
we do.
Like how many EAAs now?
Somebody asked
how
us
many
how
Oshkosh?
somebody asked me how we met, and I couldn't tell them. I'm like, I have no
I know.
idea.
I have no
Yeah.
idea, but
Yeah,
we
it
met
was
and
like
it's
we-
awesome. So
yeah.
Well, I don't even know if that's
I
true.
don't.
though.
I have no clue how we met.
My guess is that we met at the Doolittle Raider reunion, but
I
I
think-
don't know how that would have hooked up.
Yeah,
like,
but
how would we
I
have
don't-
talked to
yeah,
each other?
Strange.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
Chris has people. He just draws people to him.
Yeah, I
That's
know,
it.
right?
You
I
like,
think
gotta
you
talk
guys
to
are
that
like,
guy.
hi.
That's it.
And then Kristy, we just met this morning,
Yep.
but I think we'll bring you into the fold of the family too. I
Yeah.
think that's cool.
I look forward to that. Seems like a very fun family.
Excellent. Chris, you've been with the EAA for how long now?
A little over 3 years.
Okay. And
Yeah.
Kristy, how long have you been with the museum?
I think I'm going on 7 years now.
Oh wow!
wow.
But
okay.
with aircraft operations since 2013, so
Okay.
3 years over here.
And you started out, Chris. I kind of got the lowdown a little bit, or we got the lowdown on you a little bit before you got here. But you started out, like,
In membership.
oh, you
as
did.
well.
Okay.
I started out as actually working for a temp agency in membership. I wanted to work here so bad. I told them I would sweep floors. Just let me in the door.
Oh really?
I had to be here.
Why is that?
Yeah.
I went to a very diverse college in Florida. I went on a volleyball scholarship, but I fell in love with the diversity there. And after coming back home to Wisconsin, I missed that. And when I worked at Airventure in the summers, just as a high school kid working there, my mom was a pilot. I realized that the diversity's there too. So the only way to get connected with that year round was to be here.
Oh, cool.
Are you from this area?
I am. I grew up in Waupun, which is about 45 minutes
cool.
southwest of here.
And your mom's a pilot? Is she still flying?
Not
Oh, okay.
anymore. It's one of those tragic stories where she lost one of her instructors close to her when I was young, and that kind of scared her away. But she comes to every Airventure. She volunteers for me.
Nice.
She's my like call-in sidekick whenever I need someone because I can't get a staff member
Mom,
or
hurry
volunteer.
up, get down here.
You need to bring
okay.
these books and these cards and do this. She's there. She's real cool.
Oh, awesome.
And so now you're in charge of essentially the flight operations for
The
The
air
museum,
tour
right?
ride side. Yep, the planes that go out and visit the different cities, and then also during Airventure, the helicopter. We have we lease 5 now Bell 47s and do
wow.
rides during Airventure with those.
Oh, nice.
So I'm
Yeah,
lucky
you-
to get to work with the ones that all touch the people and actually get them up in the air. So.
Oh, very cool.
how many aircraft do you guys have for the EAA?
For air tours or total?
Yeah, for air tours, yeah.
Right now we have the B-17 behind us, the Ford Trimotor in front of us, and we lease a Ford Trimotor from the Liberty Aviation Museum in Port Clinton, Ohio.
Oh,
They purchased
Yeah.
that from Evergreen. So
Yeah.
and then we own one Bell 47, which drops Santa during Christmas time. So there's
Oh,
other
that's cool.
little activities that
Oh,
go on here.
fun.
Santa flies in on the helicopter, and the kids love it. So over at the museum. So.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I think that's one thing we definitely want to talk about too. Is I think people when they think of Oshkosh and EAA, they think of just one time of year. It's a week long, and then you're done. But there's so much that goes on here during the rest of the year. I mean, you guys
Yeah.
have the nose art collection from the CAF.
Yep, from the CAF.
That's here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was briefed. We were briefed on that.
Well, Amy, you are the CAF,
Yeah.
so.
I'm not.
Ish.
Yeah.
Well, you used
Ish.
to be.
Yeah.
Amy
Yeah.
used to be wing leader for
For our
Minnesota.
local
Yeah, so.
museum. So
I mean, you
and
still
now I'm
do,
not.
Don't say you're ish. You do still do.
I
You're
do.
there
I
all
do
the
a lot
time.
there. Yeah, we
You're
kind
always at
of
the
live
wing,
there.
so.
So I understand. Like, there's something about
Downplay
the
it.
camaraderie of being in part of an aviation group too. You know, you're all in it for the same reasons, and I don't know. There's just something about the type of people that are drawn to it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, that's fascinating to me. Like, why? And I talk about this all the time. Like, what makes people passionate about what they're passionate about? Like, why? Like, I'm like, why do I like airplanes? I don't, like,
Because they're
I'm like,
awesome.
why
Why
do
would
you
you
like?
not?
There's that.
But what I mean? Like anything. It's like, like
Why are you drawn to specific things? over
why
something
is there
else?
something that's appealing to you?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, but
I think with airplanes, there's always that piece for me that drew me is the creativity, the diversity, and the family. I mean, everything behind these airplanes, everyone involved, Chris, everyone he knows, the volunteers, the staff here, it's
They all
always
become
family.
family.
Yeah, and we're all in it for the same reasons, even though we sometimes fight like cats and dogs. But
That's
we're all here
what
for the
family
same
does,
reason.
too.
Yep.
yeah, and that's
very true.
Because our basis of the restorers is that, like when we're pitching it to people, it's like, well, yes, it's about airplanes, it's about people who restore airplanes, but it's not like it's
It's so much more than that, though.
right. It's not about the airplane. I mean, yes, that's a part of it, but it's about the people who are around it, and it's the story,
The history of it.
Like, this is just, it's a beautiful airplane, and I love these things, but it's just metal. They're just metal and fabric and parts. Like, it's the stories behind with the people who flew it, like the people who are still doing stuff with it.
People who keep it
The reasons
maintained.
why. Yeah, like that passion is the interesting part. And like, we could be doing something with like cars or boats or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. It's about the people. So, anyhow, I'm getting sidetracked.
Chris, how long? You said you've been up here for 3 years.
Yep,
Right?
yeah.
What do you do with the museum?
Well, I was in membership services department for the last 3 years, and that's kind of a catch-all. I mean, I think the day-to-day operations is, of course, you take calls and answer questions. It could be anything, and there's some odd ones that call in, and Kristy knows that. And with the really exciting calls were always the ones. For me, the two that always stood out were coming to Airventure for your first time, what to expect. I always enjoyed that call. And the other call was the B-17 side.
I was hoping you were going to say
yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah. Oh no, I like the the auto pay feature. No. So
Can you? I can't talk to you anymore. Can you just
Yeah.
do this on our website?
yeah, exactly. No, there was something very special when people were calling in for B-17 flight. In many cases, it's a once in a lifetime thing. They're super excited.
They have a story to share,
And there's
too.
always a reason. Yeah, there's a reason why these people want to fly in the airplane.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really exciting part of it is, what's making you want to come out, see the plane, even just coming out for the ground tour. There's a lot going on in the world. What's making you want to come out and see it? And there's a lot of cool personal stories as to what it means to them to come out and see this airplane, whether it's the B-17 or the Ford.
Right.
Yeah.
What's one of like the most important stories that kind of sticks out in your mind that both of you have heard?
Yeah.
Well, for me,
From somebody calling
working
in.
with, I've been, probably with Kristy now since, probably my first weekend here. And
You guys have great chemistry together. but-
yeah.
like you can tell you're friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
we've-
an act.
yeah,
It's an act.
Yeah. But we've, it's because Kristy has trusted me with doing some of the media outreach and getting, some people interested. I've gotten to get a lot of veterans up to fly, and that team has to exist. And because that team has existed, we've flown a lot of veterans, and that's the special part for me is getting the World War II vets up.
Yeah.
One of the most special ones that stands out in my mind when it comes to how important it is to them is we flew a veteran on a media flight. He was a radio operator, and it was a couple weeks later he passed away, and he's in the ambulance on his way to the ER, and he's telling the paramedics that he got to fly a B-17 one more time.
Wow.
And his family was like, we just wanted to let you know how much it meant to him that
You made
he was in the ambulance.
you made his
telling us.
lifetime.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that we're able to reach out and do with these
Yeah.
airplanes.
And we're friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I see
Not
your
just in real
picture-
life.
Right.
Yeah.
On Facebook too.
Yes.
We're real friends
Haven't
too.
accepted my Farmville invitation yet.
I don't play this. But I see your posts go by with all the pictures and the stories, and like every time I see it, like I'm either tearing up,
Yeah.
and I always think like how incredible that you take the time to do this. Like I was like, these
Go the extra mile.
right, and like you could just be having this ride program where you're like, yeah, we just sell, it's a money maker. Like we
Yeah.
make money, put the plane
Trying to
here.
break even maker is
Well,
what we're
right.
trying to keep them flying
Yeah,
maker.
let's be honest. just yeah, maybe like
Yeah.
break even.
Not,
is good.
you're not driving like a Bentley or anything.
No.
else.
right.
I didn't see my rules on the
Yeah, I might be going to. Anyway, I mean, you could just look at it as a business model, but like
But
when
it's a
I
passion.
when I see your pictures and your posts, I'm like, oh, like you actually care, and like
Yeah.
you're actually doing something, and I'm like, he's such a good person. It makes me so happy to see that stuff.
That you take the time
So-
to post those pictures
Right.
too,
Yeah.
and share those stories.
And that's something that I think we've gotten to do a lot of cool stuff with is by when I was a kid, my neighbor flew Marine Corps B-25s, BBJs, and when he passed away, his family didn't really know what to do with his photo album, so he pitched it. And that always bothered me. I was like, wow, why would you do that, first off? And second,
I think a lot of people don't know what they have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they didn't know what it was. It was a bunch of guys who didn't even know who these people were. And, there's a lot of those private photo albums. There's a lot of history lessons in those photos. So it's been amazing when they do have the pictures, to ask, is it okay? Can we scan these and save them?
Yeah.
And we've, the crew has been amazing too on the road with trying to do that, and they'll get excited.
Well, I was going to say, that story is pretty incredible. I don't think you ever told me that about your neighbor before. And now whenever the trailer comes home back to Oshkosh after touring, there's usually 2 box loads of amazing artifacts that are labeled Chris Henry. So tables have turned, people know about you, and they want to give you all of their stuff.
Yeah.
Shoot, we get stuff at the CAF in South St. Paul for Chris.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Network going on here.
We had some guy, and he's like, I need to get this to a B-17. And I'm like, well, the only one I know of is an EAA. And he's like, oh, okay. So it ended up getting to Chris.
Yeah.
I'm like, so his reach is far beyond the EAA.
Yeah.
It's growing.
It's
yes.
growing.
Well, I mean, not to step in, but it's been really important for us to have Chris, Olivia Rasmus, who couldn't be here today. She's the coordinator for all the tours, and
Yeah.
there's so much detail, and I'd love to get away from it and focus on the amazing stuff. But if we didn't get all the detail wrapped up there for the
There wouldn't be
volunteers,
anything else.
so
Right.
having him focus on that and be able to give it the time and the spotlight it needs has, I think, brought the tours to another level for EAA and brought it to another significance
Yeah.
level. So when
Yeah.
he says trust, he means not I don't trust him, I need him to do it. So we need him to do it for the company, so
Yeah.
that we're, as long as we're going to keep this thing flying, we should take advantage and tell the stories.
Yeah.
And what is, like, you said that you take more of the technical. Like, what exactly is your duties with this?
Well, like you said, part of it is the business model, being able to keep it flying. So besides Olivia and I, and then Chris, our crews are all volunteers. So it's taking care of them, getting them trained, and getting them in the loop, making sure they have everything they need to operate out on the road. And then our hosts in each city are usually EAA chapters or a museum, or sometimes a group of people who get together and are so passionate that they want to bring this aircraft into town. And as you guys know, we're here in Oshkosh, so our marketing abilities and our media outreach and our logistical abilities are somewhat limited to research that we do and conversations we have. So Olivia and I all day long are on the phone with those hosts, encouraging, supporting, managing their requests, getting them information, and then just wrapping it all up in a nice package so that when our crews get there with the airplane, they have everything they need to be successful and be ready for the community.
Yeah, and
Wow.
is that something that, like, because you wanted to work here, is this something that, like, is this like where you're like, this, I love doing this part, or is there other aspects of EAA that you want to do?
No,
Or
when
venture over to.
When I started in membership, when I learned more about EAA, this is definitely where I wanted to be. I actually came over as the aircraft maintenance admin for a while.
Oh, fun.
And did that and kind of worked my way up and was learning to fly. And this is where it happened to me. Was I got thrown into air tours about like 4 years earlier than my plan in my mind had me working with air tours. And I was just doing the Ford tri-motor at the time. And then it went pretty well. I got lucky, I guess. And then the B-17 said, you guys want to come over and try working with us? And it's just been, kind of drinking by a fire hose since that. But
It's usually the best way to just
just dive in.
Just go for it.
Well, and we trust our volunteers. They've been doing this for 20 years, so they know what works on the road. They know what struggles they're going to run into. So we just listen and learn and try to make everything better for them. And for me, another rewarding part that we don't showcase a lot is what it brings for our hosts, the lasting impact on the community, general aviation, the airport, the businesses that support them. I mean, some of these cities get the biggest Ford dealer or the bank or whoever to come out and support them, and then those customers come who would never have come to look at an airplane. So and then Chris gets the veterans there, or with the Ford, a huge array of unique people, and they tell their stories, and people go home and they want to learn more about aviation and get involved. And that's part of what we're doing, is trying to get more people involved in aviation overall.
Right, and that's, I mean, certainly like one of my goals with even just doing with Beyond the Powder is there's such a lack of girls and women who are into aviation. And I'm not saying like everybody should be into aviation, because I mean, like, if it's not your thing, it's not your
But
thing.
you shouldn't be afraid to do what you want to do,
Right.
or let
Yep.
something hold you back because
Right.
you're afraid or you don't have the time or you don't have the money. Like, go for it. Give it a shot.
Right.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I know we taught. We have our aviation friends, like, and we have our film friends, and some of our film friends breach into the aviation because we bring them into to shoot stuff, and they are like, "This is cool."
Yep.
Like, yeah. I'm like, that's what we talk about all the time. And then we have our group of friends who don't, are just our friends, and like we'll
You
bring
like
them.
them anyway.
Yeah.
They don't really like airplanes, so we let them stick around.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like we'll talk, like, I mean, we talk about airplane stuff with them, and they're like, yeah, okay. But like, we'll get them to go to an air show, and they're like, oh,
Whoa.
Gotta go again.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I didn't realize like how big they were, or how loud it was, or that existed, or so. I mean, I think, and because we're always preaching, like, if you go to an air show, you take somebody with you who's not done
Who
it,
hasn't gone.
who isn't
Yep.
into it, who hasn't gone, to show them, because we're always like, you just get that one other person who's into it, and then it keeps growing. And like, they don't have to become pilots, they don't have to do anything with it, but it's just like
They can work in the
knowing it's there.
museum,
They
or
can,
they
yeah,
can-
they can
Exactly.
volunteer, they can.
I think what's cool
Whatever.
is even bringing people into this hangar here, which isn't really
There's
a-
people. I don't know if you guys have seen behind us. But there's lots of things going
Yeah.
on today.
Right.
There's
I
some
know you've
fabric
heard
work
them.
over there,
They're all volunteering their time
Yeah.
too because they just love it.
which is awesome.
Yeah, I forgot that was one of the things I wanted to mention at the beginning, was that there's actual work happening around us. So if you do hear tools going, they're building airplanes.
Yeah, you were. Sorry, I kind of cut you off, but I wanted to
No,
point
no,
out
absolutely.
that people walk in.
But I think it's important, bringing a friend in here who, longtime World War II airplane person, but never really hands-on.
It's a
And
totally
he came in
different
here and he's
ballgame.
like, oh my God, like two of the most iconic bombers from World War II are sitting here together.
Yeah.
And to us, it's like, it's our B-25 and our B-17, and
Yeah.
so it's definitely important to get that, to make that connection with people who maybe don't think they have a spot in this, to bring them out and say, yeah, you can be part of this. You can volunteer at any level that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Well, and youth too. I think nowadays we don't have enough safe, positive places for young kids, high school kids to go, and it's rare to run into an airport or a youth group or a chapter aviation group that isn't a positive place for kids to be around. Even if
Yeah.
they don't grow up to be an aviator, they get those values and work
Right.
ethic that I think a lot of aviation people have.
Yeah.
We've got a pretty good cadet program at the Minnesota wing, and it's so inspiring to see when the kids, you don't think they're listening. It's like, okay, if you're not, I'm not just gonna waste my time if you're not gonna listen.
Right.
And then a couple weeks later they'll come back and say or do something, and you're like, you were listening. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can cry right now. But it just, you make such an impact on them, and you don't even realize how much of an impact. So you can't just go to a museum and start touching stuff,
Right.
But at a facility like this, like, you can work on them. You can do things with them, and you can be a
Right.
part of the process. So-
Yeah, and even just like, and Adams told me the story when he interviewed one of the Tuskegee Airmen for Red Tail Reborn. They said, like, they would fly, and like, I think one of them landed in a field somewhere or something, and other black people were like, I didn't even know black people could fly an airplane. So I think there's an aspect, and we talk about that with like women, like little girls seeing women flying, going, oh, like someone who looks like me can do that.
Yep.
Because as long as
an
you're exposed
association.
to it, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, like, it's normal, it's fine, people can do this. Like, I feel like aviation feels very shut off from like the rest of the world, because everybody's like, it's rich people's thing, and yes,
Right.
you have to.
No,
yeah,
Boy,
it's
is that
really
wrong.
not. No.
Yes. I mean, it does cost money, It's
The
just
heater
a
went out
choice.
in my car last night. I'm not even kidding. So there you go.
A testament right here that is not a rich people's thing. You talked about all volunteers, and when the airplanes go on the road, are the pilots, co-pilot, the crew, is everybody a volunteer?
Absolutely. We're trying to be financially responsible. So Olivia, myself, or Chris really would go out if there's a special need or we can't get a volunteer to do it. We want them to go out. They have fun. They're great at it. They don't have to see all the detail side. So they're there to focus on the people and the veterans and the stories. We have 6 members with the B-17, 2, we call them TAMOs, it's Touring Aircraft Maintenance Officer,
Ooh, I like
crew
that.
chiefs, and then we have obviously the 2 pilots and 2 tour coordinators who it's not a glory role, but they do all the checking in. They do all the managing of the on-site volunteers. Once we get there, we recruit more to help us sell, the gifts in our trailer gift shop, and they do the driving between cities, which means they have to pass a DOT physical and log like a truck driver. So there's a lot of extra work that they they put into it. They pass a driving test every year, and they handle the fires on site. I mean, it's pretty amazing that they're willing to do this for us, because it's a weekend. All they can do is call me on my cell phone. They're in San Francisco, and I'm like, I would maybe do this if I were there. What can I do to help you? But they're out there, just taking care of everything, and the feedback we get, it's, I would say, 90% of the time, the host on site and customers send us feedback about how amazing. I know you say it all the time because the crew helps you.
Yeah.
Both crews are amazing with how they work with people and really help enhance the experience and give people a reason to want to come back and visit us again.
Yeah, we've been at several events where the B-17 or the Tri-Motor's been there with their B-25, and it just, everybody's so welcoming and friendly, and
They're ambassadors of the program.
Yeah, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you've got people who can properly, care for the brand, as well as present the history and share information and inspire people.
Right.
And the hosts on the ground, I mean, I don't say enough about them. It changes city to city, but with the Ford Tri-Motor, we have 2 crew members. It's a pilot and a ticket sales, so having that additional volunteer support is so important. I mean, we had 2 cities this last year or so. Las Cruces, New Mexico, and Lincoln, California, both flew over 800 people in a Ford Tri-Motor in a weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
Mexico's a lot.
over 14,000 flown this year, I think, in the 2 Fords. So they're touching a lot of people who. B-17 is awesome. There's a lot of history tied to it for the people who come out. The Fords are touching people who are taking their first airplane ride.
Right. And it's a little bit more cost effective for people
There's
who,
that too.
if you can't afford to ride in a B-17, like, here's the Ford Tri-Motor. It's still really awesome.
It's a
Right.
giant
Which
piece of history, and it's so affordable to go do it.
Yeah,
Right,
I know
yeah.
it's on my list to do, because my
We did it a couple of years ago with my nephew. I think I was
I
more
really
excited than
wanted
he was. He's like, really?
no, my friend, who also was on my race team, who pilot ridiculous amount of hours, flies all the time. She's like, you have to ride the Tri-Motor at Oshkosh.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? She's like, yes, you have to do it. And I was like, and we didn't
It's
get
like a
to
rite
do
of
it this
passage
year.
when you get here.
Yeah,
you gotta get out and
it
fly.
is.
Yeah.
That and the bell, you have to do the
Yeah.
helicopter.
Yeah, that too.
I haven't
that
done
too.
a helicopter yet.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a
It's
MASH
fun.
fan.
It's fun.
Gotta
Oh,
go
yeah.
do it.
I've never ridden in a helicopter before, because honestly, all the moving parts makes me really nervous.
It's one of the coolest ways to see the grounds, though.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Airventure,
yeah,
it's very
absolutely.
cool.
I bet.
That'd be really cool.
Speaking of, how does one get to fly on it? Like, what's the process? Do you just show up, or do you have to call, or
During Airventure?
Probably
Or in
both.
general?
Yeah, Airventure, and then when you let's
Oh,
say it shows,
there's a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. You
Let's
can
say it
call in
shows
and
up at my
talk to
local
someone like
airport.
myself.
Call Chris. We'll
Yeah.
put the number will be at the bottom of the
Yeah,
screen.
and especially if you have a connection to the airplane or you have a cool story, we love to hear it. Call in and ask for me, or or just mention that you have this tie to the airplane.
Yeah.
and we'll have that information on our
Absolutely.
website too. So
And there's also the website, b17.org, for the B17, flytheford.org for the Ford. And you can get your tickets on there as well. And that's for all the different stops. You'll see the schedule listed throughout the year for both aircraft. Now during
And you do get a little discount for pre-booking.
You
so
do,
There's that,
yeah,
there's that
absolutely.
benefit.
It's a little incentive.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Planning
Call in
ahead.
and get that
Absolutely.
seat locked in.
And during Airventure, you can go to one of the different kiosks that are on the field. We have one in the main welcome center. Of course, the trailers down by the Warbird flight line. And
One at the front gate, I think.
One at the front gate, that's right.
Yeah.
And you can get the Ford, the B-17, or the helicopter. I recommend you do it early, and you do it ahead of time. If you want a B-17, you're going to have to do it the day before, because it books quick.
Oh yeah, I would imagine.
All three
Fords,
do. They
Wow.
they do a lot of rides.
yeah, you just
The
I
Ford
mean,
and the
You
Bell
see
you
the
can walk
Ford
up
Tri-Motor
to.
going up.
Just,
Yeah.
all day you just see it going by.
You can walk
40
onto the
something
Ford
flights
and,
in a day sometimes. I
Wow.
mean, they work. That crew works so hard.
yeah. You could walk onto the helicopter or the Ford, but you need to do it like right at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Before
you're best off
everybody-
getting in.
Yeah.
Before
line.
everybody wakes up from the campgrounds.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
We need to start getting up earlier when we go. I was like, we
It's
like
hard.
roll
There's so
around
much to
9.
do at night.
I know.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of
You get
people.
tired.
Yeah.
So, and which I guess we should clarify, if anyone's interested, the B-17, how we do the tour stops and Airventures, we have set flight times because we can only take 10 per ride. The tri-motors, we say we're going to be in a location these days, available from 9 to 5, say hours-wise. You can advance book your ticket if you want a discount, but once you get on site, it's kind of first come, first serve. There's not set flight times. So you show up once we have a load of passengers, we'll go. So if it's busy, they'll do 3 flights an hour.
Wow.
So about 15 minutes long. And if it's slow, we'll wait till we have a load of passengers, maybe 20 minutes, and then get you briefed and get you flown. So.
And how much is it for the tri-motor flights?
It's $75 for adults on site, $70 for adults who pre-book, and then it's $50 for children under 18 on site or in advance. And we can actually sell the
steal.
right seat too. Only on site, it's $125, and even
that's
though our
cool.
leased airplane's a 5AT, it's under the weight limit, so we can sell the right seat in that airplane too. We don't need that type-rated second pilot, so
That's the way to go.
it is the way to go.
I'm doing that
I'm
next
making a
time.
note
It
of
gets
that
very
for my
popular.
Yeah, I know,
birthday
write that down.
present.
People will do it 3 times in a row if there's not a line. They're like, I'm just gonna, and they log it then. They log the time.
Ah,
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, I totally want to do that. And we live near, we're very close to Liberty Aviation Museum. We
So you
actually
can-
go out
Oh,
there
yeah,
all the
okay.
time.
There
so
you
yeah,
go.
I'm making a note of that. And
So-
it's by the island, so it's cool.
So we should probably talk about the other events that happen, because we've got about 10
10
minutes
left of the show. So
We
yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, let's talk about the other events that go on here.
A lot of people
during
don't
the year.
realize, that there's a lot of stuff. I mean, EAA and Oshkosh really is the center of the universe for aviation.
I
Not-
like that, the center of the universe.
Yeah, not just that the week of Airventure, and there's a lot of different things going on. Our museum is actually open year round, and we have a lot of different things going on there. Speakers, different films that we debut and show in the movie theaters here, and then of course right now we have the CAF Nose Art exhibit, which is the CAF was nice enough to loan us those. It's the largest nose art exhibit there is of actual nose art panels taken off of bombers as they were scrapping them during World War II.
They're pretty fantastic.
They're amazing. Yeah, I mean they're actually those are real pieces of history. So.
yeah, and they're all like jaggedly cut.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it looks like somebody took a Sawzall and just went.
It's really neat. Yeah, I mean you can look at the back, you can see all the stringers and everything on the
Yeah.
airplane.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I like those, and of course they have the special nudie exhibit of the ladies
Exactly,
who are
exactly.
more naked.
Sorry, I was
which
late
I
this
didn't,
morning. That's right, so, yeah.
I didn't
But,
realize that until we were like, because Zach was nice enough to let us go up in the P-38 yesterday, and of course we spent like hours just. I was sitting in there going, I'm not getting out.
Yeah.
I was like, there's a line, and I know there's a line, but I want to
Yeah.
sit in here.
I'm just
I'm
gonna
like, tell me more about the controls.
come back
I'm like, Can I
later.
push these buttons?
Yeah.
And he's like,
No.
no, you can touch it. I was like,
Stop touching
sorry.
it.
It was really cool that you could I could move the rudders and the ailerons and stuff. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, and that P-38 is really important to us here.
Yeah.
It's painted as Richard Bong's airplane, highest scoring U.S. ace, and he was from Superior, Wisconsin. So that's a big, actually Poplar, Wisconsin. I'm from Pittsburgh, so I'm still learning all these little areas of Wisconsin, but up near the Superior area. So that airplane, it's painted in his markings as Marge, which was his girlfriend who became his wife back home. It tells a really interesting story.
Yeah.
One of the things I always thought was interesting was the photo that's on the nose. He didn't want a kind of a crude pinup because it was his fiance, and he thought that might be odd.
Hey, check out the girl
Yeah,
on the side of my
yeah,
plane.
exactly. Yeah.
No, that's not my wife.
Yeah. So he actually wrote home and asked if she would send a recent photo so that he could glue it to the nose. And the most recent photo she had was her high school graduation picture. But that also tells of how old they were. I mean, she was 18 years old.
Yeah.
He was, I think, 19 or 20.
Yeah.
And we didn't have cameras in our pockets at all times like we do
Right.
now. I mean, it was a big deal to get your picture taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She sent the photo over, and he had it blown up and glued to the nose. And Stars and Stripes was out there taking pictures, and he was already in the hunt and sort of among the top scoring aces. So the picture of him with her on the nose became this massive deal, and she became a celebrity like overnight. She actually went on to become a model at Maybelline Makeup.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
So it was kind of interesting, So
Yeah.
it's a very important story that goes with the
Yeah.
airplane, But the airplane itself is pretty amazing. P-38 is a beautiful airplane.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
And of course, I love and I'm not a typical girl about other things, but I love like World War II love stories. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just,
and that's a great
they're
one.
always so sweet. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
She
think
actually
it's
used to say that she was the most shot after girl in the Southwest Pacific. So.
Oh my god. You guys have a lot of great stuff in the museum, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
We have about 200 airplanes in the museum, and then we have another 50 over at Pioneer, which is 20s, 30s recreation of an airport. There are times where the Ford will go in and out of there on the grass strip, which is pretty amazing.
It's a cool place in the summer.
Yeah,
Just
that was
to
my
be out
first flight.
there.
My
It's
first flight on the Ford was with Cody on the grass. It was like, this is amazing. Like, you land at a grass strip in a Ford and you get out and there's like 30s and 40s music playing.
And that's where they filmed Public Enemies out there by
Yeah.
Pioneer.
Oh, yeah?
Did the
Oh,
filming
cool.
for that.
Yeah, so
That
it's,
would be super.
Yeah.
I'd come out in like the dress. Like
yeah, people do. I mean, sometimes
1940s
people
gear
do. So.
Yeah.
But it's a cool step back. You can actually get a biplane ride through the year here, and the Traveler it's sitting over there.
Oh, nice.
And we also do Young Eagle rides too. So
That's
it's there's really a lot going on, and there's a lot of groups that come here. The FAA comes here a lot. Just different organizations. I mean, there's a lot of activity that goes on throughout the year, and then after probably about May, like. It's like, don't talk to us.
Then it
we'll see you in
becomes-
September, you know, and it just kind of becomes Airventure mode. And
Except for air tours, because we're touring up
Well,
until
that's
the
true,
weekend
yeah,
before.
exactly,
We're still chugging
yeah.
away out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
No
which
rest
is
for them.
crazy. I mean,
it's tough. Yeah.
You're doing Airventure stuff, but at the same token, the air tour stuff has to get done, and it's busy. So.
It
Yeah.
It's probably hard to manage it all too. I mean, especially with a minimal staff and all volunteers. I mean,
Well, and
it's a
the-
lot of
yeah.
balls in the air.
Well, and the host, to them, the ones that say that they're hosting the airplane, they don't get to come to Airventure. Having one of these airplanes come into their city it's like a mini Airventure to them, and some of them
Yeah.
build it out to be that, speakers and
Right.
on-site, food vendors and airplane lectures and all these things. So it's really important to them, and what they put on is pretty amazing.
Yeah, because a lot of people we talk to, they're like, Airventure's on my bucket list. Like, I have to
Yeah.
get there. Because we bring it up every, like, people who don't even earn in aviation. Like, oh, I want to go to that. But yeah, like, it's kind of a night, like, and a lot of people are like, I'll never get there. And I'm like, you can get there, just go.
Yeah.
It's not as hard as people
It just
think.
takes some planning.
Yeah. You can't get a hotel room.
Yeah.
There are
You can
certainly
get a
places
dorm,
you can,
though. The dorm, the
you can
University of
camp, and there's
Wisconsin,
places
Oshkosh.
to
You rent a house too.
Yeah.
You
We
rent a
did.
house,
We
yeah.
rented that a couple
We
years
lived
ago.
underground for a couple
We
for
did.
about a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've slept
In the
in my
mushroom
office
house?
during Airventure because it gets too crazy, so I just had a cot in my office.
That's awesome.
Just called it
I
a
would
night.
totally do that too.
You're like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, why not?
That makes a lot of
Why-
sense, actually.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a shower upstairs in the hangar,
there you go.
and it was
Bring your
cold
dry
out night.
shampoo.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense
It
to
does.
do
It
that.
does.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like, so that's nice that you, like, that it goes to other cities. So it's like you don't
Yeah.
have to make it
You can
here
bring
to
it to
see
them.
And
Little
that's
piece of
why
action.
I think part of the reason we both love working with them is it's a really important outreach tool for an organization that should be one of our priorities, is reaching out to our members all over the country and
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
But
though
we-
they can't make it, they're part of the organization.
Yeah. Well, Chris set up a flight for Adam and I for in Cincy. We drove 4 hours from Cleveland to Cincinnati, and to ride on the plane. ate
Please
some
don't tell
lunch.
me it got weathered out.
No, it didn't. It was a beautifully hot day, like hot. Where I was like, oh, it's gonna be awful. Drove 4 hours, had lunch at the hangar or at the their airport. I can't remember the name of the.
Yeah.
It's Lunkin.
I know what
Field,
you're
but-
talking about. They have a really cool restaurant there.
Yeah. So we had some
Goose
lunch.
Cafe, I think. It's
Yeah.
called, yeah.
Flew in the plane, got in the car, drove 4 hours. I'm like, we drove 8 hours to go on an airplane.
That's about what when
And
you
not
set
go
it
on
up for
vacation,
us,
yeah.
too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. It was, I think it was about
Yeah.
2 hours, and Jim and I drove down and
Yeah.
got on the airplane and then drove home, and it was like, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it was
amazing that people do that. I mean,
was
to this
awesome.
day, it blows our minds. They drive far for the ground tour, which I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
reminds us why it's important what we're doing.
Yeah.
They make
Yeah.
We got to keep doing it.
and it's stories. I mean, you could go on and on. Even with the Ford, like, I'm gonna meet my long lost brother for a ride on the Ford. And I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
sure. I'm sneaking Grandpa out of the nursing home. I'm gonna
Yeah.
bust him out for the day.
Yeah. Right.
A lot of people, that was their first airplane ride.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. a lot of grandpas and grandchildren coming
Yeah,
out to
that's
ride
awesome.
together, which is very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, and I talk about this all the time, but my grandfather was a tail gunner in B-24, and like was the big thing we talked about. Like, and I shouldn't say big thing because we did everything together, like Nintendo, watching TCM, like I literally spent like all day, every day there. But like when we would, like when I got into this and he would talk to me about it, I would be like, oh, like they're coming to MAPS, which is the closest to where I grew up. Like they're bringing the B-24 and the B-17. He's like, nah, I don't need to do that. I'm like, it's a 30-minute car ride. Let's go. And he's like, mm-mm. And I never could figure out why. And then now that I'm more into it, like doing the shows and like I have all these opportunities, and my husband Adam is like, do you think, like if he were still alive, like we could get him to do that? And I was like, I don't know. Like maybe for like the temptation of flying it again, I don't know. But like we couldn't get him to travel because he would say, I've already. He's like, I saw the world because he was in the Pacific. He's like, I already did it. I don't need to go anywhere.
Yep.
But no, like for me, that's like I got to ride on Collins B-24 when we were doing the restorers. They did Bomber Fantasy Camp out in California, and I was only up in the air for like 15 minutes, and I was like, mate, it was so amazing to me, like because I had that connection, and you know, like that extends. Like, I feel like all World War II veterans are my grandpa. Like, when I talk to them, because they, like...
I just want to, like, give me a hug.
Yeah, they're so cute. And, like, they all... Like, most of them sit with their legs crossed. Like, and I was like, my grandpa did. Like, they sit like my grandpa sat. Like, they say the same things he, like, did and how they reconnect. So, like, when we got to fly in the B-17, I was like, this is awesome. Like, it was just so, like... I don't know, like you get that.
There's a lot of class from that generation.
Right. You get that connection when you're in it.
One of the coolest things I remember, one of the vets that we had in 2013 was this guy who was having lunch, and he called to book his B-17 flight, and he told me a story. He goes, I was on leave in England, and we went to London, and he was like, I was sitting at this open-air cafe with my crew, and we had ordered lunch, and this waitress was this beautiful waitress, and he said, I told my buddies I was going to ask her out, and my whole crew said, you know, she's way out of your league. And he said, would you believe if I told you that right now that same beautiful woman is making me my lunch? And they'd been married for 70 years or whatever, you know, and just a really classy generation.
They were, yeah.
And the times I've been out for the media rides, which isn't a ton, but when they bring their wives, you can still see it in how they treat them. Together, they're just good people.
Yeah. We were up in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And the one that we did together was Bombardier. And he was in the 398th Bomb Group, which our airplane's painted as. And his wife, they've been married since before he went to the war. And she was trying to push him to take the honor flight to go out to D.C. And he said he didn't do anything that deserved it. He didn't feel he deserved to do that.
I hear that a lot.
And so we were talking to him, and I called Kristy. I'm like, Kristy, we got to put this guy on the airplane, you know. And we did, and we got him to fly. So at least we got him to fly, you know. And he actually went and sat up in the Bombardier seat again. And it was afterwards he came out, and he was like, you know, he flew 35 missions and led the formation on a couple raids. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, you deserve
Let's
to
let
get
us
to go
do this
that.
for you.
Yeah, and I got to do honor flight. Is it last year, 2 years ago? And it was so great. And the guy they paired me with was he was in the Army in Japan, and mostly for like during the occupation. And I get the sense that he did more, but he did not want to tell me, because when we went to the memorial, like he saw the what are the ones with the D-Day boats where they flap down?
LCVPs.
Yes. Like they had those etched in, and the guy's coming out, and he's like, oh yeah. Like he kind of pointed at it. He's like, I've done that. And and I was like, wait, come back and tell me about it. And he just was like, no. But we got along like a house on fire, because people would be like, everybody else on it was mostly like the kids with their parents.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, do you guys know each other? And I was like, no, they just hooked us up this morning. And we were just like, we were the only ones who were there who were like laughing and like having fun the whole time. And like he did share stories with me, but he was. Yeah. But anyhow, it's a really great experience, and I want to do it again. But it looks like we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But I would like to have you guys back for the beginning of the next show.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about the B-17 crew when you reassembled, because I think that's a great story.
Sure.
And then we're going to talk about pilot's license stuff, which, Kristy, if you want to stay around, we would
Yeah,
love to
we'll have you
talk to
stick
you
around,
about
and then
that
we're
too.
going to bring on Emily, who's
Yeah.
learning to fly.
Yeah.
So
And
we'll
I think
those
it'll be
around.
really good. Well, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for joining us.
It's an honor to be here.
That's
For
fun.
letting us, do our show in this awesome hangar.
Anytime.
Yeah.
This is a warm and welcoming place, so.
Yeah, this place is cool. And
Can't wait to snoop around a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody who's working, who's held off on the really noisy stuff.
Volunteers are crucial, and thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, okay.
That's it.
Cool. All right.
Thanks.
Yeah, not a problem.
Hey, we
And
finally
then
didn't go
music,
over.
please.